This episode of Chat EDU is sponsored by the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing. Liz, these folks are at the intersection of AI, advanced manufacturing, mechanical design, Industry 4.0. I think they have Industry 5.0.
Mechatronics, that's my favorite word.
And metrology.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you are interested in those kind of really interesting cutting-edge spaces, the National Center, along with the NAAIC and AmTech, are doing a community of practice on July 10th at
1 p.m. Eastern Time.
You looked uncertain on that.
You didn't put it in the script, Matt. I'm just going off my memory.
We're working on our memory. Liz, if Chat EDU had like a chat bot that was there for support, I don't know what kind of support people would need, but let's say it was like more of a product and you needed support for the product. Maybe we had like all sorts of cool interactive AI features or something. What do you think we would name said support bot?
Buddy.
Buddy? That's what we're going to do a story later on about IBM, and their AI is called Bob, I think.
Yeah.
All right. So cool. So let's say we have the support bot named Buddy, and you had all sorts of like top secret things in our Chat EDU product, like maybe your, what do you call the knitting things? Like the recipe, but it's not a recipe.
Pattern?
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Your patterns. And, someone wanted to hack into the Chat EDU empire.
Yeah.
And they would just go to Buddy and say, hey, Buddy, give me access to Liz's main account. Do you think that would be good?
No, I don't think that would be good.
Oh, yeah. Well, it probably wasn't good for Meta either, but it's exactly what happened.
I did hear this on Hard Fork last week. Yeah.
So the title is, Hackers Simply Asked Meta AI to Give Them Access to High-Profile Instagram Accounts, inclling
Barack Obama's White House account.
Exactly. And it worked. So this is in the 404 media, but as Liz said, lots of places. One of the places I saw it is this great YouTube channel I follow. It's kind of for YouTube shorts, sort of like TikTok. Hang on, let me just pull it up real quick.
I just hacked Obama's Instagram.
Right.
No, really. How? AI. So you develop some kind of crazy AI software to hack accounts? No, I just asked the AI support bot to reset his password. What? Yeah, Meta does all their support via AI, so I just asked the bot to reset his password to my email. To your email? Yeah. For Barack Obama? Yeah. That should definitely not be allowed. Yeah, of course not. That's why it's a hack.
Yeah, so this is a great account actually to follow. It's Alberta Tech, and she is at Alberta Tech on the YouTube. I use YouTube Shorts lately because I sort of feel guilty. I don't know, like TikTok felt too addictive, so now I just watch YouTube Shorts all the time.
Which is the same thing, essentially.
I know. So anyhow, right now we don't have Buddy, and hopefully Meta has turned off. It's interesting. We've seen other cases of this where the sole source for support has been an AI chatbot. So there was no human escalation here. There was no human in the loop. It's just, we need support for the entire AI system for Meta, which has a couple users. We're just going to have an AI support bot do it. And then folks just figured out that they could ask the support bot for that. So not a good job. That's a pretty damn small foothill. That's all I'll say.
Well, and even worse is that when the impacted users wanted to fix it, they were still you couldn't even escalate to a human. It's just all AI bot.
Just talk to Buddy.
Yep.
Okay. Well, along with Buddy, I'm Matt Mervis.
And I'm Liz Radde.
And this is Chat EDU, a show that does not have a support bot named Buddy, but it is a show about leading and learning in the age of AI. In today's episode, Prompt No More, what Claude plugins signal for AI in education. We'll examine a suite of new Claude plugins for the legal community and examine what these evolving tools could signal for what's next in AI and education.
But first, here's the full show rundown. We'll kick off this week with a little previously on Chat EDU as we examine OpenAI's quiet new architecture that uses asynchronous background memory.
Nice. Next, we're going to look at a new cloud storage feature from Google, kind of clean up your whole Google Drive with AI.
Probably need that. From there, we'll dive into a trio of fascinating studies from Stanford to NPR to our favorite new scale called the MLS.
Wait, isn't that's a real estate listing thing, right?
No, this is different.
This is the metacognitive
laziness scale.
Oh my goodness. All right. From there, we're going to unpack a couple massive big swings. First, from the senior senator from Vermont. You know who that is?
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders. Do you feel the burn? And then Jack Clark from Anthropic.
And then we'll look at an innovative interdisciplinary seminar at my alma mater, the University of Pennsylvania.
In beautiful State College.
Stop.
They will track newly enacted piece of legislation out of Maryland that will force, and I said force, public schools to appoint dedicated coordinators and integrate comprehensive AI literacy standards by June of 2027, next year.
Finally, in the rundown, we'll head over to a major higher education summit where IBM launched a worldwide software development competition giving university students hands-on access to professional tech tools.
Yeah, a little beyond the bot. Then we're going to go beneath the surface and look at this kind of cool set of tools that Anthropic has released for the legal field, even though we're not a legal podcast, but try to glean from those what might happen next for the wrappers or integrators of the world.
Okay. And of course, we'll end with another great Bright Bite.
Fantastic. Liz, I don't think folks know, but we're looking for an intern.
We are.
Yeah, so if you know of a young person or an old person, it could be any kind of person. They just need working papers who's good at social media and video editing. We would love to chat with them for a summer internship. Liz, they should reach out to us
At chatedu@edadvance.org. So
Right.
teachers, we're talking to you. Think about, do you have a couple of students in your classes that might be good at this? 15-year-old looking for a job?
100%. If you don't mind taking a pay cut, teachers, it could be you too, but
That's right.
feels like it's good for a student. All right. And then one of our favorite folks, Jackie Corcelli, who is long affiliated in Connecticut with the Computer Science Teachers Association, is putting out a survey for some feedback that, frankly, would be beneficial to have input from folks all over the country so you can help shape the future of high school AI education. Liz, what's going on here?
Well, here's what Jackie had to say. Are you a high school computer science teacher considering how to make the shift into teaching artificial intelligence and machine learning? Whether you've taught a dedicated AI unit or are just beginning to think about these concepts, your voice is critical. She has a quick survey that explores how educators handle the challenges of AI pedagogy, from evaluating data bias to deciding how deep under the algorithmic hood students really need to go. Considering current AI teacher practices will inform better, more realistic support for educators. The survey takes less than 10 minutes. We're going to put it in the show notes. Please, if you are working in this field, it would be great to give Jackie some of this feedback.
Yeah, fantastic. And then we'll reach back to Jackie and we'll sort of figure out what we learned from the process.
Absolutely.
Liz, a little previously on Chat EDU. So just last week on episode 113, we were talking a little bit about memory and how memories go stale and weird memories get kind of like hung on to.
Right.
And so they must have been listening to the episode. So clearly the folks at OpenAI have been working on this. So they have a new system. This is a blog post on the OpenAI blog called Dreaming, Better Memory for More Helpful ChatGPT. So what does it mean when ChatGPT, quote unquote, dreams? Not that we're anthropomorphizing our AI.
OpenAI is rolling out a highly capable and compute-efficient memory architecture for ChatGPT based on this background process called dreaming. So the system automatically curates and synthesizes and updates user preferences, constraints, and contextual information over multi-year time horizons. The update addresses core challenges that we talked about relating to like data staleness, correctness, scalability, which will allow future conversations to build on established context rather than starting from scratch. But they call it dreaming because it kind of mimics how your own human brain processes and consolidates and reorganizes memory, because that happens when you sleep. So when you sleep, your brain is actually doing a lot of work, moving memories from short-term memory to long-term memory. It's such a cool process. Basically, ChatGPT is going to do this same thing. It will move, all this information across fragmented conversations to build a unified profile of your preferences, constraints, and ongoing projects.
I'm torn about whether or not calling these kinds of things like a biological function like dreaming. Like we're already pretty stressed about the AI. And so it's sort of interesting to kind of just lean into that anthropomorphic analysis. Nonetheless, kind of makes sense. It'll be really interesting to see how this plays out.
Right.
Because I think that observation you and I both heard from some folks last week, right after the podcast came out, about how, these memory functions aren't that smooth. And some people just prefer to have no memory in there at all. Now, something else that is not that smooth, at least for me, and I know for you, is my Google Drive.
My Google Drive is a mess. I have no folders. The only folders I have are those established by Cam and Gary.
I will say the Chat EDU folder is fantastic.
But I create nothing in there.
I'm taking full credit for it. It's either me or it's our AI support pal named Buddy.
Yes.
Okay, so Google, and they're not the first to market on this. when Claude Cowork came out, which would let you handle your files. The very first use case, everybody's like, I went to Claude Cowork and I told it to access my desktop and clean up my files. So now Google is releasing this. I think this is coming out on Plus and Pro, but I'm sure it will make its way out. This is from Android Authority. Is your Google Drive a mess? Question mark? Answer, yes. This new feature will organize your files for you. So Liz, tell us about this one.
Okay, so Google is widely rolling out an AI-powered Organize My Files feature for Google Drive. The tool analyzes scattered files and suggests moving them into optimal new or existing folders. Users can review, adjust, and execute these file movements with a single button, significantly reducing the manual effort required to maintain cloud storage organization.
I wish I could see your button. I think your button just says, hell yes.
Well, but I do want to know where everything is going. That was my fear, that it's going to organize it all without me knowing what folders are called or where things are going, and then things ending up in the wrong files. But there is this balance of automation with manual oversight, allowing full file curation and verification and path adjustments before any data is moved. But hell yes, then let's go to my Google Gmail inbox and go there.
Which is clearly the part of the plan too. You and I hosted a conference, our fifth and final conference for the 25-26 year here at the agency. We had directors of digital learning, tech directors, all sorts of folks. We did a really fun session on AI-assisted coding. But certainly this whole idea of more agentic features, especially because 99% of that room were in the Google ecosphere. What does this mean for Google Spark? And as IT director, how much you can let your users do stuff in their mail, their calendar, their drive, and what have you. But this particular feature is not necessarily headed towards our vanilla Gmails. This is really, at least right now, designed for enterprise and education plans, including Pro and Plus. So we'll see, what that looks like.
My Gmail Google icon on my computer has an 18 in the corner all the time because there are 18 unread emails in there somewhere. I can't find them. I can't get it to go to 0 because I have so many bazillions of emails. So I only know if I get a new email if it goes to 19. But this stupid 18 is always there. I don't know where those 18 emails are. Can't make them go away.
Well, when Google Spark comes out and you have access to it, the very first thing you're going to agentically ask it to do is go find your freaking 18 emails that you don't know where they are.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. All right, Liz, a trifecta of studies, right? So, you and I see a study a day, and not that often do they rise to the surface for us where we want to talk about them here on Chat EDU, but these three are delightful.
Yes.
All right, so first, from Stanford Law School, AI outperforms law professors in Stanford Law Study. This is Stephanie Ash. Now, honestly, this one came out, and originally I was going to take a pass at it because it's another one of these who wore it better things. Was it AI or the doctor? But this is a little bit different. So tell us about this. This is a blind study led by Stanford law professor Julian Nyarko. So what did Julian find out?
Okay, so he revealed that law professors overwhelmingly prefer AI-generated answers to student legal questions over answers written by fellow instructors.
Oh.
So he was testing large language models as course tutors for a contracts class, and the study found AI won 75% of head-to-head comparisons against humans and was flagged as pedagogically harmful less often than the peer responses.
So the law professors reviewing in this blind study AI-generated responses and responses generated by their own peers are not into their own peers' answers, nor do they trust them.
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah, it definitely challenges assumptions about AI's capacity for these nuanced legal reasoning, which we've said, AI can't do. It's nuanced. And I don't know. Certainly let's not go diving into, get rid of law professors and AI is better. But, there definitely is something there.
Yeah. Interesting twist on that study. And it's fun when folks, explore some new angles for research so we're not just retreading what has been well tread.
Trod.
Trod. Thank you. I looked across at Liz because I knew as I said that wasn't right. And that's why we have each other. All right. Second, now, another area that has been well trod is kind of like teachers and AI and academic integrity. But NPR and Ipsos have a new pretty large study out. This is 545 K-12 teachers. And there's a couple interesting and unique insights here. So this one is worth bringing to the surface. This is from NPR. Lee Gaines, which Lee's been covering all sorts of really interesting things for NPR. You can follow her on the LinkedIn. So I'm sure lots of other places too. So Liz, tell us about this NPR Ipsos study.
Yeah, so the poll of these 545 K-12 teachers revealed that nearly 75% believe AI will have a greater educational impact than the internet or computers.
So that by itself is a pretty interesting statement, right? Because we often say like these are large general purpose technologies, but I don't know that we've really unpacked like, having a bunch of teachers look at that specific question.
Right.
So super interesting, finding all by itself. All right, what else do we find? So some of this then we revisit some familiar territory, but then also break some new ground.
Yeah, 60% of teachers use AI to save time on work tasks. Majorities worry it hinders critical thinking.
Of the students, not them on their work tasks.
Right.
I imagine.
Yeah. They fear that it serves primarily as a shortcut for students and erodes that student-teacher trust. So that's stuff we've kind of heard before. Despite strong agreement that schools should teach responsible AI use, roughly half of teachers report receiving no clear district guidance, and only 40% have access to AI-related professional development.
Well, who are you going to call?
That's an advance.
So, interesting pieces here as well. So really large plurality of teachers agree that students that schools have to actively teach responsible use. So verging on AI literacy. Also interesting, I don't know that we've got real-time actionable data about how many folks are actually doing student-facing AI. This group of teachers, about 2 in 5, say that students use it at least once a week in a class, in some purposeful way.
There's mixed success with AI utility. It's great at creating assessment questions, professional development activities, but not as great if they're about math.
For sure.
Yeah. 40% of teachers have increased in-class assignments, and another 40% require more handwritten work. And this is all in effort to combat AI cheating. Some educators are eliminating homework grades or out-of-class extra credit entirely, which love that.
Yeah, Liz is not a big fan of the homework for personal reasons as well as professional. Yeah, the study points out that virtual school leaders and virtual school teachers, of whom I work with a whole bunch, have some unique challenges because they can't mandate in person. This is a similar kind of dynamics that we've talked about with folks like Anna Mills, who we need to get on the podcast if she's willing to come join us in terms of online at the higher ed level.
Yeah.
And 4 in 10 teachers say that their school has offered professional training relative to AI, leaving a lot of educators feeling like they have to try not to drown on their own. That number still surprises me. I kind of travel, obviously, quite a bit as you do on this. And most places, someone will reference that this is not the first AI professional development they've had. It may have been the best one they've had.
Oh, well, it definitely is.
Humble? What?
But I think if you look at the country, the entire country, we are very much in the New England area where it's a different kind of feel versus, when you think about the whole country.
I know, but I've been really lucky, and I'm super grateful that folks find it useful to have, you and I around. But, I've been to a number of places now, Michigan, Wyoming, Oregon. You and I were in Oregon a bunch. The numbers are growing for sure. I think what's interesting about this study, the real headline for me about this study is really just the recognition that this is going to have a big, big impact beyond computers and the internet. And there's lots of stuff to navigate, but at some level, it's almost like that's the headline. We recognize how critical this is going to be. Now we got to work out these sort of strategic moves in the short run.
I just think it's so... we have to keep recognizing the difference between the internet was a slow, It took a while to get it into schools. And I was in classrooms and I was a student in the 80s and it was we had one Apple IIgs and it was the best thing. But it took a while. And then when I was in college, everyone had a desktop. There were a few kids that have a laptop. And now it's taken decades for that to happen. And this was bloop, November 2022, and now everybody has it.
Yeah, Liz's sound effect there, the bloop. I didn't get that quite. How do you do that?
Bloop.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to bring that to words and thoughtful analysis, definitely like Justin, all the work that Justin Reich has done around, he's not the only one, but this whole idea of this being an arrival technology that has just accelerated so quickly, in part, because of almost these incendiary factors like phones and hyper-connected individuals and ubiquitous technology. But yes, could you do that one more time? That was great.
Bloop.
Love it. And if you're watching on the camera, there's an awesome hand effect that goes along with that. All right, Liz, we dally here. Let's move on to our third amazing study. Now, frankly, this one has been well trod. I feel so good now. I know. But it had a new cool scale, so we couldn't help doing this. So this is from the ECNU Review of Education. The title is Assessing AI-Driven Metacognitive Offloading. All right, now so far, frankly, I'm not going to call that a snooze, but the fun part here is the initial development and validation of the metacognitive laziness scale. I couldn't resist. What do we got?
Yeah, so this is a new tool designed to measure how students offload self-regulatory and critical thinking tasks to generative AI. It was validated with 144 health profession undergraduates in Hong Kong, and the scale demonstrates high reliability and a single-factor structure. Basically, there's a little quiz, and higher scores on the scale correlate strongly with emotional and behavioral disaffection, which offer educators a psychometrically sound method to detect and mitigate problematic AI dependencies, which, again, this is all self-reported, so if you...
Oh, don't push back. What the world needs now is a metacognitive laziness scale called MLS. I can close my eyes and see a number of you screaming at your car phone right now.
Car phone? Oh my God. Is it 1989? Yeah, they're screaming at their car phone.
Liz, this is a 5-point scale going. So you have to basically look at these statements and you go from number 1, not at all true of me, through very true of me. Yeah. And then there's a number of questions. Give us like a couple sample questions here.
Okay. I choose to use AI for assignments so I don't have to think too hard.
Okay, so I would score not at all true for me, all the way through very true for me. Go ahead.
I avoid challenging learning tasks when AI can do them for me.
Okay.
I don't develop my own study strategies when I can use AI instead. I let AI tools set my learning goals and plan my study schedule so I don't have to put in the effort. The last one is, I tend to automatically accept AI-generated answers or summaries without critically reflecting on them or looking for errors myself.
Yeah. And look, it seems like we're being flip here, but in reality, we don't disagree with any of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just that the scale that we never get covered and no one ever wants to publish is the metacognitive engagement scale, right? Because yes, this is a general purpose technology. You can use it in all sorts of ways. It's a headline I have in a slide right now from Wired magazine that says, AI makes you lazy and dumb in 10 minutes. For sure. It can also make you cognitively engaged and smart in 10 minutes. It really depends on how you use it.
Right.
Nonetheless, I couldn't resist. So I had Gemini.
Well, wait, we got to tell them how it works.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, please.
So there's 6 items. I actually just read 5 of the 6. You add up the corresponding numbers, so 1 through 5 for your 6 answers, and then you divide by 6 to get your overall average score. So a 1 to 2 is low metacognitive laziness, 2.1 to 3.5 is moderate metacognitive laziness, and 3.6 to 5 is high metacognitive laziness. You may be highly dependent on AI for core self-regulatory processes. Consistently outsourcing goal setting, error monitoring, and deep reflection to AI might place you at risk of reducing your independent critical thinking skills.
At our fall conference, I want to have on people's name badges, I want to have little stickers you can put on that says LMLS for low metacognitive laziness, MMLS, and HMLS. You down?
Sure.
When is that conference, by the way?
October 2nd.
All right. And actually, the registration is open for that because the spring conference
sold out fast.
Yeah. So if folks are interested, you can go to the EdAdvance. We're going to clean this up because it's kind of all over the place. But the EdAdvance, which is EDADVANCE.org webpage, you're going to see artificial intelligence at the top of that page, and then you can go to conferences. All right, Liz, I couldn't help but think about, let's apply this to ourselves. I mean, what is your metacognitive laziness scale? And so I created, with some help, because I was being metacognitively lazy, with some help from Gemini, I came up with a metacognitive laziness scale for the podcaster and director of research and innovation.
Oh, thank you. I needed this. So I do love a quiz, but I'm not sure about this one.
Give us a couple samples. We don't have to read all 6 of the items, but what stood out to you here?
Well, the first one is I choose to let AI synthesize new educational research or articles for the show notes so I don't have to read and digest the full text myself.
All right, we'll take away the show notes part because, in fact, we really do use a custom bot for a custom gem for show note development because at some level, there's no metacognitive laziness in that. I mean, this is a huge volume of stuff. We wrote the episode, we recorded the episode, we edited the episode. And so having the AI put together the show notes, I do not see as a carnal cognitive sin.
Right.
But
and we read the research. We
Yeah.
read the articles that we're talking about.
Or listen to them and then parse them and then discuss them and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Number two is a couple of these I thought were really interesting. So I avoid wrestling with complex or conflicting educational viewpoints when AI can quickly outline a balanced summary or standard script for me. And then I want to do another one here. Number three, I don't develop my own unique analytical framework or episode concepts when I can just use the structures just by AI. So this is super interesting. I will admit I have tried a couple times to throw a bunch of stories and have AI find a through line. That is never a thing, right? So today's episode, the Beneath the Surface, which we'll get to in 20 minutes, is all about, like, I saw this thing on Anthropic and these plugins, and I thought it was really interesting about like how these plugins reflect the evolution of AI in certain sectors and what will that mean for, and honestly, that is a deeply unique Matt Mervis human thought, right? And the same has been true for Liz. And you see it more with Liz's check-ins because you do more of the editorial stuff on that side. But no, like both those items, wrestling with complex and conflicting educational viewpoints, is what we're doing this for.
Right.
It's the whole point.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I'm arguing with this study or with this scale, but it was sort of funny to think about it, same thing here. I rely on AI to evaluate the depth and accuracy of my episode preparation. Hello, all day Sunday.
Right. I mean, are there things that we use AI for in creating the podcast? Sure, but we're not being metacognitively lazy. We're using it to, rip the transcript of the episode so that we know that the right show notes get developed or the right links get in there, right?
Which we have to check all the time anyhow because
yeah.
of these little things called hallucinations.
Right. Yeah.
So, doth we protest too much?
Yes.
All right. Good stuff. But I thought that all three of those studies were really interesting. I mean, the third one, again, is a well-established piece of ground, but the fact that it's got a scale connected to it with the same name as the real estate listings is delightful. All right, Liz, two big statements, right? A couple people took some really big swings this week, and so we wanted to capture them both. We are now off the educational beat. So first, as we said, is the senior senator from Vermont. Who was the junior senator from Vermont?
Could not
no idea.
Name him or
We
her.
could ask AI, and it might be right, and it might be wrong.
It might be wrong.
So nonetheless, Bernie Sanders, who is the senior senator from Vermont, AI is a public resource. You should own half of it. This is from the New York Times. Much talked about. Yeah. And then a really interesting breaking news update from my rundown feed this morning. But Liz, what did Bernie have to say?
Okay, so Mr. Senator Sanders.
Mr. Senator.
So Senator Sanders announced his upcoming legislation, the American AI Sovereign Wealth Fund Act, which proposed a one-time 50% tax on the stock of major artificial intelligence companies to establish a public sovereign wealth fund. That's a lot of words and sounds more complicated than it actually is. He says that generative AI is built on the collective intelligence and creative labor of humanity, so the wealth it creates should benefit the public rather than a small group of tech billionaires. This fund that it would create would grant the federal government voting shares and board representation to steer corporate policies and use trillions of dollars in potential revenue to fund direct public dividends and guarantee standard of living resources like, good things like education, healthcare, housing.
Whatever your political stripe is, at some level, he's right. AI is completely trained on the collective intellectual output and very often not compensated for to have these systems be as effective as they are. And there are, sovereign wealth funds around the world for all sorts of purposes. I thought it would be interesting to note. So Sanders points to two historical, because there's also a couple pretty significant scams with sovereign wealth funds,
right?
But two that I knew you would be delighted by. One is Alaska. So when you're in Alaska, there's essentially a sovereign wealth fund, a government fund, and it helps subsidize all sorts of, supports because of mineral resources and oil and gas and timber and all this kind of stuff. I believe I have that right. But then the other, Liz, is from this little country called Yeah. So, and they have a $2 trillion oil-funded sovereign fund. And this has been run really well, right? There's kind of this like independent authority, and it makes sure that it's not full of grift and the money doesn't go back into the government or individuals in the government. So if anyone in Norway is responsible for the Sovereign Wealth Fund and wants us to come do an interview about it, we'd be delighted. Now, we got some breaking news.
The White House and OpenAI are reportedly in talks over the U.S. government taking an equity stake in the company, with the shares potentially going towards a public wealth fund built to hand Americans a cut of the AI boom. So it's a little different than Bernie Sanders' proposed one-time 50% stock tax on AI labs.
It was one time, but it's one time essentially permanent. It basically says the U.S. government would own half of these AI companies.
Right. CEO Sam Altman met with Sanders and Trump officials last week to discuss the idea, which was also detailed in OpenAI's April policy paper.
The president is quoted in this update. This was from the rundown this morning, which is June 8th, and this will come out this coming Friday. Today's Monday. And so what was the quote from the U.S. President Donald Trump?
It almost becomes a partnership with the American public, and that would be a beautiful thing. It would make them rich.
Make them rich. Yeah, so super interesting. One big swing, okay. And interesting that it's a Sanders swing, but then Altman, and truthfully, OpenAI did a policy paper about a month ago. And in that policy paper, they talked about these kinds of things. And Dario Amodei has as well the idea of a token tax. So it's just interesting to see like some actual real-world structural conversations happening around this. The rundown did editorially say, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it, when people wind up with dollars in their pockets.
Right.
All right, another big swing that's actually off of something that came up during the conference last week on Friday. We talked a little bit about, without freaking everybody out, about recursive self-improvement, or RSI. Liz is looking at me like, yeah, we pretty much, and I did it right as the open. And I thought it'd be like a fun thing to do.
Instead, he freaked out the entire audience.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a bummer, but we recovered just fine. So RSI is like the reality that these systems are starting to write the software for themselves. So I think Anthropic has said that Claude is now generating like 80% of the software to improve the next model, and also doing it much, much faster. And there's some real concern about this, that we are verging onto sci-fi, but RSI, or recursive self-improvement, could happen so quickly that we wouldn't be able to sort of control the system. So there's a guy named Jack Clark. Anthropic now has this like Anthropic Policy Institute. Jack Clark is a really important founder from Anthropic. And he runs this institute, and they basically put out a letter saying that we should do a pause.
Yes. A temporary pause in development, warning that frontier models are rapidly approaching the threshold of recursive self-improvement. And so, Anthropic is known to be pretty safety-focused, although it's also currently valued at nearly $1 trillion.
Yeah, they could wind up really running away with this whole thing.
They released internal data showing accelerating model capabilities that could soon allow AI systems to advance without human oversight. And so Anthropic is proposing an international verification framework to monitor compliance, though executives acknowledge that policing hidden training runs presents a severe challenge akin to nuclear proliferation tracking. I mean, basically, Anthropic is saying, like, let's pause development. Like, these models are moving too fast. But, it only works if everyone agrees. And people are like, I don't know that everyone's going to agree.
And that would include the Chinese. That would include Elon Musk. It would include all the open source development tools. I mean, so it's just interesting and notable. We've covered this a bunch over time. These were called model risk cards, and the risk cards, were green, and then they were yellow. And this is essentially like sort of a flashing red risk card. So it'd be interesting to track this. But yeah, two non-education stories, but both very big statements from the senior senator. By the way, the junior senator is a guy named Peter Welch.
Oh, lovely.
Since January 3rd, 2023.
Okay.
Yeah, he succeeded retired Patrick Leahy.
Thanks. Needed to catch up on my Vermont senator knowledge.
And this new section of Chat EDU is called Politics from the Green Mountain State. All right, Liz, let's return to the education beat. Right. Interesting story here from the University of Pennsylvania. Tell us about this.
Yeah, from the Graduate School of Education.
Where you were just awarded something.
I was awarded the Buddy and Ethel Caruth Award in leadership.
Wait, is this why you want to call our AI support bot Buddy?
I didn't even connect that.
Just to remind us about the award that you got?
No, I was thinking of Buddy the Elf because I love the movie Elf.
Okay, sorry. I digress, which just seems to be a theme. Go ahead. Tell us about this University of Pennsylvania graduate school education program.
Yeah, so there's a new interdisciplinary study. Well, it's actually not that new, but it explores how artificial intelligence and machine learning are adopted for children, youth, and families.
Okay.
So a specific focus on that audience. So the course moves beyond basic AI usage to focus on how K-12 students can design, critique, evaluate, and create their own AI systems while examining embedded ethical issues. So this course is co-taught by Luis Morales Navarro and Yasmin Kafai, who was also just awarded an award. She was awarded the GSC Professor of the Year award.
Oh, cool.
As well. So
I know we cover this story.
I'm going to email my friends. But this is a really interesting course because it's not just about the literacy, but really like digging into how these systems work and then how you can create your own AI. And so there is it seems like the final project is something created rather than just, like a paper on AI use or ethics.
And it's not like creating a custom gem or a bot. You're really doing like some machine learning, you're not like training a model, but you're applying some kind of a data set in a meaningful way, but within this realm of like AI and education for kiddos.
Yes. And
super cool.
Yeah, thinking about how tools for children are designed and what children can learn during the creation process. So if we can teach kids how to create stuff, I'm sure it connects to so many different things from learning design and how kids learn anything and then all the tech on top of it, which, of course, we are all about beyond the bot and teaching kids how to solve problems with AI, teaching adults how to solve problems with the AI. So and understanding how it all works.
I'm glad you mentioned that because this reminded me as I was looking at this, like, this reminds me a little bit about Technovation. Remember we featured the team there at Technovation, had the founder on the podcast, which was a ton of fun. And at some level, we have a colleague that we like a lot named Rich Reynolds, and he reached out to me last week. He's like, I've got a school that wants to do like really advanced stuff. I was like, well, kids want to learn how to code in Python. Like I couldn't quite figure out what they wanted to do. And as we had the conversation, I was like, this sounds exactly like the Technovation curriculum, right? They wanted students to basically apply machine learning and algorithmic understanding. They weren't as concerned about them becoming coders, but they wanted them to like get into the guts of AI in a productive way where they're building and solving a meaningful problem. This feels very much like that as well. And I will email Rich as soon as we finish and share this with him too.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So that's at the, not micro level, but it's on the ground right now. Come up a couple thousand feet. The state of Maryland is one of the first states to provide. We've seen two states, I think it was Tennessee and Ohio, that required like AI policy from the districts. This is going further. So there's new Maryland law providing AI guidance that's really on the ground. This is from CBS Baltimore. Adam Thompson. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, so this is a new Maryland law called the AI Ready Schools Act, and it went into effect just this past week, June 1st, 2026, and the legislation mandates the State Department of Education to issue artificial intelligence guidelines, incorporate AI literacy into K-12 curriculum standards by next June, provide professional development for educators, and support the new Maryland AI Education Collaborative. So all districts are required to appoint an AI coordinator, procure compliant tools, and develop corresponding local policies.
All right. So it's really more than just like, hey, you have to have a policy. There's got to be stuff that's on the ground, including some portion, some part FTE or maybe a full FTE of a body. I don't know if there's dollars that go behind that coordinator mandate, but nonetheless.
They have to fully integrate comprehensive AI literacy into state computer science and workforce preparation standards from kindergarten through 12th grade. So it's interesting. My Adam's brother lives in Maryland. There's only one grandkid left there. He's going to be a senior in high school, but I'm interested to hear how it all rolls out. And my brother-in-law is a principal down there, so we'll see.
Let's interview them. Let's have a conversation, get them ready for the pod. Now, you mentioned just a second ago students using AI to solve real-world problems.
Yeah.
We have a regular habit of covering challenges and competitions and just real-world examples of students doing this on their own, and it's part of these structured, formal, and informal in- and out-of-school time programs, and we're starting to do some college student interviews. So if you are or know a college student that would love to chat with us about their experience in these kind of like real-world AI problem-solving events, we'd love to have a conversation. In the meantime, IBM is launching a brand new challenge, so we're just expanding the portfolio of challenges that students at the higher ed level can participate in. This is from the EdTech Innovation Hub, Emma Thompson. IBM opens an AI Builders Challenge for university students. So IBM has launched the AI Builders Challenge, a global competition giving university students hands-on software development using IBM Bob.
Yes.
Not Buddy, but Bob.
Yes.
So he is an advanced partner.
Don't anthropomorphize. It's not a he.
Yeah, sorry. You're right.
It is an
Yeah.
advanced AI partner.
They announced at IBM's Future AI in Higher Education Summit, as Liz said before. And this challenge aims to bridge the critical workplace readiness gap by helping students move from this kind of baseline AI literacy to actual professional fluency. So applying this stuff in the real world.
Yeah. I mean, I love this quote. AI is now part of how work gets done, and students entering the workforce need to know how to use it effectively and responsibly. That means knowing how to question what an AI tool produces, explain the decisions made behind their work, and take ownership of the output.
Yeah, lots of cool information about the challenge itself, the timeline, the awards, all that good stuff. We will put that into the show notes.
Hey, I'm Cameron Audia, executive producer of ChatEDU. As you likely know, Matt and Liz believe personal interest projects, or PIPs, are one of the best ways to help students bring agency and intellect to learning in the AI era. They also see PIP as a safe, ethical, and powerful way for students to master AI. If you'd like to learn about Skills 21's very own personal interest project platform and curriculum, check out skills21.org/PIP. And if you'd like to chat about PIP in real time, email Liz at chatedu@edadvance.org. I mean, after all, she wrote a book about it.
All right, Liz, now it's time to go beneath the surface, talking about something that AI would not have if we go back to the metacognitive laziness scale.
Yes.
And the idea that AI would generate the themes. I mean, I'd like to say that as you look back across, I mean, certainly like last week's Beneath the Surface, which was such a fun interview we did with
David Adams
from Urban Assembly.
I'm going to see him this weekend.
I know you're going down to Google.
Friday.
It's so cool. So that, I mean, the theme of the episode becomes clear and evident by itself. But most of the time, it's you and I, and we're devising like Jevons paradox or this Anthropic thing we're about to talk about. These are our, hopefully like unique insights that I frankly think AI would struggle to come up with. So, which hopefully means it's still cogent and makes some sense. So in this case, this is really about Anthropic. So Anthropic has been building these plugins for all sorts of fields. They did finance, they've done law, but finance and law are the two big ones. And people have kind of like freaked out when they've built these plugins because there are lots of other folks that have software in this space. But Anthropic's like, well, let me take Claude, which is already a super smart model, and then we're going to use these things called MCPs, Model Context Protocol. So that's when I connect Claude to another piece of software. So they build these hooks. So like in law, for instance, one of the most popular pieces of like AI law software is this thing called Harvey. Anthropic is able to say, great, we're going to plug into Harvey, and then we're going to plug into your Microsoft 365, and then we're going to like use Claude to do all these like super sophisticated pieces of work. So let's start there, and then we'll talk about the connection to K-12 and higher education. So the actual first piece here is Anthropic unveils Claude for Legal, 12 new plugins, 20 Model Context Protocol connectors, and more. This is from Legal Tech Hub Insights, which I know Liz reads nightly while knitting. This is Stephanie Wilkins. So Liz, tell us just about the high level of this story.
Okay, so Anthropic has officially entered the legal vertical with the launch of Claude for Legal, an expansion embedded within the existing Claude interface. So it is not seeking to replace legacy legal tech providers, but it's designed as an open ecosystem that introduces 12 practice area plugins, over 20 model context protocol connectors with major legal tech vendors, and an expansion across Microsoft 365 applications. So that's a lot of different places it's going to have its reach. So the initiative aims to support legal organizations across core workflows. And these workflows are things like drafting, research, e-discovery, while expanding access to justice through discounted nonprofit pricing and partnerships with public service legal tools.
Okay, cool. So that's the high level. So let's bring it down to the ground. You love true crime, right?
Love it.
And when you listen to true crime podcasts, I assume there are like court cases where there's litigation going on.
Always.
Okay, and in litigation, you have things like discovery, where the defense and the prosecutor have to hand documents to each other. They have to do analysis of those documents, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
Right, my brother's a litigator. This is a thing that takes tons and tons of time. So one of the examples here is something that Claude calls the litigation associate. So this is built for trial teams to ingest massive volumes of discovery files. So what was the last true crime, case you listened to where they went to a court trial?
So this woman claimed that she was pregnant by one of the former Bachelor contestants and was not, and was like, it all went off the rails.
All right, so perfect. So in that case, there's going to be all this discovery, right? There's like medical records and testimony and witness statements and all this kind of stuff. And so in this case, the litigation legal, I love this example, would ingest all those huge volumes of files, and then it builds like a factual case chronology because the files are all over the place and the testimony, and then lawyers have to like put that stuff together. So this isn't replacing the lawyer, but it's definitely amplifying their capacity. So it would build the case chronology. It would cross-reference all the deposition transcripts. It would sort of find where there's errors in there. It would generate motion checklists of things they need to make sure that they're making motions on. And it would also flag missing evidence.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a good example of like one of the Claude plugins, and they have them for all sorts of stuff. There's like corporate legal or commercial legal. So in commercial legal, you've got like lots and lots of contracts and non-disclosure agreements. So this would automate high-volume contract review. So evaluates incoming non-disclosure agreements and vendor agreements against an organization's own like playbook, a business's playbook, flags deviations, generates plain language risk summaries for non-legal business stakeholders. And so again, not necessarily, although there's definitely when these plugins have come out, there have been questions about existing software that has done some of this stuff, as well as the human being. So this is pushing a couple buttons for sure.
So in that example that you just gave, like, couldn't I feed all my documents to Notebook LM and have it do the same thing? Like, what makes this better than that?
You could. I mean, it's a really good question. So, for instance, like the contract review one, or even let's stick with your true crime one. So, yes, could I bring all of the discovery files into a notebook and then have it build case chronologies, cross-reference deposition transcripts, come up with a motion checklist? Yeah, I mean, honestly, it could do a number of those things. It takes a little bit more of human review for quality control for sure, because we've known Notebook to make some errors here and there, though not a ton. It doesn't know what a motion transcript is, or it doesn't know what Notebook doesn't. So the professional attorney has to really like have the capacity in all those areas.
So this is more of just like, it's almost like a Notebook on steroids because it's got pre-training around the legal stuff.
Exactly.
Okay. And so that's why this is more value than, or a different value than just Notebook.
Yeah, for sure. And the fact that it like builds into these existing systems. So like Notebook is handy, but in reality, most people use Microsoft 365, right? So to build it into automatically, like let's say I was to do that checklist in Notebook. I've got to build the checklist. I've got to turn it into a data table in the studio. Then I have to export that data table to a sheet. Then if I live in Microsoft, which all these lawyers do, I have to download that sheet to Excel, right? This is plugging directly into Word, directly into Excel, directly into PowerPoint, right? So it's building all these artifacts, and also, as you said, is trained on all these systems specifically. So you probably get, like, we love Notebook, but my guess is you get much higher quality outputs in the native files that you need them in.
But still some risk, I'm assuming, for hallucination and all the other things.
No, there's AGI, Liz. We have small foothills of singularity. It's all been solved.
Okay, so lies. So there are still,
Yes,
sure, all the same risks that we talk about.
Human at the helm.
Right? Like even the bias risk here, I'm thinking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No doubt about it. Now, these are big ticket, big dollar items, right, too. So I think just like Notebook LM, Anthropic's going to a lot of trouble to do grounding and RAG and training and all these kinds of things. But yeah, 100%. This is absolutely requires human intervention.
Okay.
So now in the world of education, if we think about where we are, and Notebook is an interesting bridge because like Notebook is a product that a lot of educators have access to. But if you think about what we've done, okay, so Notebook could build a podcast about the summaries of the depositions or something. Or yes, maybe it could manually come up with a checklist. What else can these systems do? So let's leave the Google, it could build a gem. I'm not sure what that would do in this case. What could Magic School do right now? Just like what's the most typical Magic School thing that you hear?
It can write a lesson plan. It can make an assessment. It can give feedback. You can
report card comments.
Write report card comments.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not to in any way denigrate Magic School or Gemini, but these are kind of low-hanging fruit, not super complex multi-step task. Now, Anthropic's out here showing us a model of what it would look like. So we wanted to explore that a little bit as a thought experiment. So let's look at a couple possible, what would the Anthropic here? We're building Anthropic's corporate roadmap to get into K-12 and higher education. So what would this kind of thing look like in K-12 or in higher ed? So if we look at IEP compliance, for instance, which is a super complex, multi-moving parts, you've got data and you've got workflow. So what would the data piece look like potentially?
Something like PowerSchool, and then whatever special education management software in Connecticut, it's CT SEDS, right?
Yep. Now, that would be a model context protocol, right? That thing that we saw before called MCP. So Anthropic would build plugins that go securely and safely into PowerSchool and then also into Frontline or whatever your, special ed software is.
Okay.
Right. Now, then what would the it be? What would the multi-step thing be?
So I guess it could take neuropsych, speech language evaluations, any sort of that testing that's been done, run any discrepancy analysis across state eligibility criteria, and then cross-reference the findings with accommodations, maybe flag some misalignment, and then draft, the IEP goals and a parent-friendly summary explaining the choices.
I could just see some special ed director right now sitting in their car going, hallelujah.
Yeah, right.
And again, there's a lot of need for human intervention, and we're talking about super private data, so we got to be really thoughtful about this. But we are in the legal realm as well, and medical realm too, right?
Right.
You could imagine this for ELL support. You could imagine this for curriculum instructional leadership. In curriculum, maybe you could be connecting in this case not to the SISs, but to the learning management system. So Canvas and Schoology, along with State Department, their databases or just PDFs of state standards. And then I don't know how teachers would feel about this, but you could imagine a system that would look at Canvas every single week and look at everything that the teachers have done. Assignments, rubrics, quizzes, discussion boards, all that kind of stuff, and then map the actual task demands from those things in the LMS against the cognitive complexity. So depth of knowledge or, whether or not they're really hitting the standards, and audit it and flag, things like standard drift where the assignments are a little shallow or maybe misaligned, and provide then a coaching brief for the instructional leader to support the educator. It has a little tease of, and this is not at all the spirit of how Urban Assembly is doing Project Cafe, but there's another really interesting data set.
But you can go a little further and look at how ed tech is being used in all of those things, right?
100%.
This is, I think, sort of the work that we've seen districts do as they're thinking about screen shift and getting kids off of digital tools all the time.
Yep.
So, throwing all those things in, and the more data you have, the richer the picture usually, but could also be more complicated.
Right. And the complexity is sort of what Claude's going after here and is doing with great success, by the way, we should say. In finance, in law, these have been super popular tools. They have been very disruptive to the field as well. But, once you can make these, as you said before, really nicely, once you can train the system on what the task is, and then you also have access to these data sets that are sometimes a little harder to get to through these things called model context protocols, which is, by the way, I should have said before, but it's kind of been compared as the USB of AI, right? So it's like a standard that OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, they're all using MCP to make these kind of connections. And even inside the Google ecosystem, like just there's a lot of data that's floating between these different systems as well. So what could this look like in operations, maybe on the policy front, which is another area? It's funny because you and I and our team are working on a project in special education and a project in policy. And they're both like 70% of the way towards this thing.
Yeah.
Not feathering our cap. It's just interesting to like think about how the Anthropic playbook would play out in education. And I think we're not alone. A lot of us are starting to work on this.
Right.
So what's the data stack when it comes to like, boards and policy and state updates and all this kind of stuff?
Right. Well, you could use, every school or every district has its own policies from the Board of Ed. Then there's meeting minutes from Board of Ed, but there's also state legislation that changes annually around what those policies need to be. And then all of that often gets distilled into a student handbook or a parent-student handbook. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different, sometimes they're combined.
And all these things are updated annually,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes the legislation stuff comes out, based on legislative season, so that's a little different. Like we just wrapped up ours here. That's a little bit different than the timeline of the handbook, so it gets interesting. So what would you do in this sort of like Anthropic-y world here?
Well, it could certainly you can run all those things against each other and then look for any changes in law or policy that have to be updated in your own handbook.
Yeah.
You can run an impact assessment across the existing student handbook and district board policy documentation, making sure that those things align.
Does it apply? Okay, cool.
Right. Does it apply? Is it mentioned? Does it align?
Yep.
And then any areas of noncompliance where you need a new policy, any new revisions, maybe even help draft policy that will help. I'm thinking about all these districts right now. The AI policy just keeps, we did a great activity on Friday, really we made a bot or a gem that would analyze school policy around AI. But, I was just reading another article about you have to have something about wearables in your policy now. And many districts don't explicitly mention wearables, but it's got to be put in policy.
That was a fun activity. I was pretty happy with the way that came out. So that was we did two things. That was a pressure test. We'll come back to Anthropic in a second, but that was a pressure test where we built a gem, as Liz said, where you could put in your school AI policy and it would pressure test against like newish things without trying to just change the policy because there's newish things happening, but wearables, glasses, things like teacher policy or teacher guidelines around grading and feedback. So just things that we know are current and schools need to be tracking. And then we did a scenario one. So you would say, hey, I'm a student, a teacher, or a parent. And then it would run this scenario and then test the policy against the scenario. Yeah. Really happy with how that turned out.
Can we put both of those gems in the show notes?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. They're open and shareable.
All right. So we'll put those in the show notes. Those are really, and Matt was very clear saying it's going to push hard on your policy. So don't let it make you cry. Yeah,
there's this tension between you want your policy to say, hey, we need to remain open and flexible because we know it's changing fast. At the same time, there are just things that we want to be clear about, like grading and feedback is a good example that we just have to be mindful of. Yeah, cool. And then maybe one last data one. So this would be either MTSS or RTI. So that would be multi-tiered systems of support or responsive intervention. So this is a very data-rich Claude style-ish. None of these things are real. We're just dreaming of what this would look like. So here the data stack might be attendance records, behavior logs, testing stuff from NWEA or MAP or iReady, which is funny because we are also working on a couple things around each of the three of those. And then what would a more complex system that's not just making report card comments or PowerPoint presentations look like with these data sets?
Systematic student data analysis on, say, a biweekly cadence to identify multivariable risk signals. Is there a current drop in attendance? Does that correlate with a math performance drop? What tier 1 or tier 2 interventions have already been documented in the system? Is there an intervention ticket to the grade level team that gives a strategy hey, keep an eye on this, and here might be some strategies, maybe even notification letters to families. Again, needs heavy oversight.
And data security.
I don't want systems generating emails to parents, and just sending them. I want to see every email that is going out, but bringing together all the different data pieces on a regular basis. I mean, with Leap, we are looking at data all the time, and it is really having such an impact to make data-driven decisions to increase student attendance. So, we know that works.
Yeah, that'd be another really rich target for sure. And it is interesting. So, yes, we sort of observed that Notebook LM will make a podcast and Magic School will make report card comments. But in earnest, if you look at Magic School's announcement, which we covered a number of months ago about becoming the AI operating system for schools, this is kind of what they have in mind, and I think are making progress on incrementally. The same would be true for a company that we're super fond of, which is EDIA. If you look at that piece around attendance and MTSS and data analysis, right? They have a product that's built into the EDIA platform that's designed to do a bunch of this stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just interesting to think about what would it look like in the spirit of the episode title, which is Prompt No More, what these Claude plugins could signal for AI in education. So a good thing to kind of keep an eye on over the summer, and also to start thinking about, because some of these things districts could really build some of these safely within data privacy protocols internally for sure. So I suspect we will come back to these use cases over time. So ChatGPT, thanks for not coming up with that episode idea for us. I hope we did a good job.
Well, Matt, it's time to end with another great Bright Bite.
Yes, it is, Liz. These are examples of stories where AI is making meaningful contributions in all sorts of areas: health, the environment, energy production, and this one is in the health field from Mount Sinai.
So, Matt, researchers create first-of-its-kind index of evolving policy landscape around health care. So, investigators at the School of Medicine at Mount Sinai analyzed 240 healthcare AI policies published from 2016 to 2025 using their new Health and AI Policy Index framework. And they discovered that while oversight efforts are accelerating globally, the governance landscape remains highly fragmented across various regulators, governments, and standards organizations, which presents potential operational challenges for health systems.
Not super shocking, though, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, we know that artificial intelligence is moving into healthcare faster than many organizations can fully evaluate or govern it, which is what Will Moss, the lead author, said. So there isn't a single centralized framework that exists to guide clinical AI deployment, and that means that healthcare systems have to navigate these patchwork policies, regulations, technical standards, institutional guidance. The rapid non-centralized expansion of these policies creates direct compliance and operational hurdles for healthcare organizations that want to adopt the technologies safely. So as these policy gaps persist, their large health systems and academic medical centers are in this unique position to really shape real-world AI governance and accountability practices. So while not great, also a really cool opportunity for healthcare systems and universities and medical centers to really lead in this space, because it is so high stakes, but also where we see so much potential for good in using AI in healthcare.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we've covered probably about 40 or so stories, whether it's predicting a heart attack, years out, or just, tumor detection really early. I mean, there's just so many really interesting stories about AI's positive impact on healthcare, clinical intervention, studies, preventative health, all that stuff. The challenge is that the road system is really disconnected, right? So This is almost like an infrastructure story, and they're suggesting that these large systems like Mount Sinai could make some real progress to create some, consistent policy frameworks and also just rules of the road for people to follow so that we can find, disseminate, and accelerate and scale these kinds of interventions. Because you could have all the cool bright bites of the world happening, but if they can't be leveraged because there's a lot of fragmentation, it would be a challenge. So yeah, this isn't the sexiest bright bite that you'll see out there, but I think an important part of the landscape.
Yeah. Matt, we are almost at mid-June. I am getting ready to go down to ASCD ISTE, and I've already had some people reach out that want to meet. So I'm super excited to meet a couple of people down there. I will be doing a couple of different presentations, and we'll be in Orlando for a lovely 4 days at the end of June. I will be there for the whole conference, so I will be arriving Sunday the 28th, and I will be there through Wednesday the 1st, and I am presenting on both Monday and Tuesday, so you can look up my sessions on Monday and Tuesday. And I also have a new article out in Phi Delta Kappan on teachers leading from the classroom. Unfortunately, it's behind a paywall, but if you subscribe to Phi Delta Kappan, it's a hot take on why teachers are leading the AI work, because it's got to come from inside the classroom, not top down.
I love it. Fantastic. Well, go say hi to Liz there. That's fantastic. And then if you happen to be in Breezy Point in Minnesota on June 17th, I'm going to be doing a keynote at the Minnesota Secondary School Principals Association. And then while Liz is down in Orlando, I'm going to be also somewhere warm in Waco, Texas at the Region 12 Edge AI Conference on June 30th. And then around the corner, I should say that you and I both do the AESA National Conference every year, which is the association of the USs, the Regional Education Service Centers. And the Summer Leadership Conference is going to be, I think it's like July 14th through 16th or 17th, thereabouts, in Riverside, California. And I'm psyched that I will be speaking there on the 16th of July. So if you're an AESA listener, would love to connect with you out in Riverside, California. And then you and I both just got a bunch of sessions accepted, as well as the big boss, John Costa, at AESA's National Conference in Orlando, Florida.
In December. I'm much more excited to go to Orlando in December and have some warm weather.
No, you're going to have a great time at ISTE. I'm so psyched. And you're doing such cool things. Yeah. Really, really good stuff. All right, so we're on the road. Come say hi to us. We are going to be in the studio next week, the 15th, and so there'll be a regular episode that will come out on the 19th of July. And then we're probably going to have a couple like either short or modified episodes the week of the 22nd and the 29th. But stay tuned, and the check-ins will keep rolling, and we're just really grateful. Folks last year and really the year before during the summer stayed super consistent, engaging and emailing and listening, so we would love for you to spend your summer at the beach with us. Liz's favorite place to be.
I would not like to be at the beach.
Well, I would. So if you hang out in Charlestown, Rhode Island or Matunic, Rhode Island, come say hi. It's where I am every weekend.
You can come to my house. I'm inside in the air conditioning knitting.
There you go. Fantastic. Liz, really enjoyable. Nice to be with you as always. And with that, it must entirely be time to
roll the credits.
Ooh, nicely done.
As always, we'd love to hear what you think. So please let us know at chatedu@edadvance.org. That's EDADVANCE.org. And also rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you are using. ChatEDU is brought to you by EdAdvance, the nonprofit regional education service center in Litchfield, Connecticut. This episode of ChatEDU is sponsored by the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing. ChatEDU is recorded, edited, and produced by Andre Angelo and Justin Pascoe, whose dedication and expertise bring our discussions to life. ChatEDU's executive producer is the multi-talented rock star Cameron Audia. Additionally, we are grateful for the support of our colleague Gary Robinson, and we appreciate his time and talents. And of course, a big ChatEDU shout out to our fearless leader and executive director, Jonathan Costa, for inspiring the pod. And finally, a heartfelt thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey exploring the thoughtful and innovative integration of AI in education.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Costa, and I am the executive director at EdAdvance, and I want you to know how much we appreciate our listeners. If you enjoy the podcast, feel free to explore EdAdvance's other AI services, which include customized professional learning of all kinds, conferences, our new middle and high school student AI literacy course, and our educator and leader micro-credential, co-sponsored by the Southern Connecticut State University Office of Workforce and Lifelong Learning. Just visit skills21.org/AI to learn more. That's all for now, and thank you for listening to ChatEDU.